And I said each other, I was talking about it the other day. Yeah, well, no, we will. We're trying to get data break, now we will, we'll put a meeting in, get it back up again. Now everything's opening up again, we can.
Yeah. أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم ياسين والقرآن الحكيم إنك لمن المرسلين على صراط مستقيم تنزيل العزيز الرحيم لتنذر قوما ما أنذر آباؤهم فهم غافلون لقد حق القول على أكثرهم فهم لا يؤمنون إنا جعلنا في أعناقهم أغلالا فهي إلى الأذقان فهم مقمحون وجعلنا من بين أيديهم سدا ومن خلفهم سدا فأغشيناهم فهم لا يبصرون وسواء عليهم أنذرتهم أم لم تنذرهم لا يؤمنون إنما تنذر من اتبع الذكر وخشي الرحمن بالغيب فبشره بمغفرة وأجر كريم إنا نحن نحيي الموتى ونكتب ما قدموا وآثارهم وكل شيء أحصيناه في إمام مبين واضرب لهم مثلا أصحاب القرية إذ جاءها المرسلون إذ أرسلنا إليهم اثنين فكذبوهما فعززنا بثالث فقالوا إنا إليكم مرسلون قالوا ما أنتم إلا بشر مثلنا وما أنزل الرحمن من شيء إن أنتم إلا تكذبون قالوا ربنا يعلم إنا إليكم لمرسلون وما علينا إلى البلاغ المبين قالوا إنا تطيرنا بكم لئن لم تنتهوا لنرجمنكم وليمسنكم منا عذاب عليم قالوا طائركم معكم أئن ذكرتم بل أنتم قوم مسرفون وجاء من أقصى المدينة رجل يسعى قال يا قوم اتبعوا المرسلين اتبعوا من لا يسألكم أجرا وهم مهتدون وما لي لا أعبد الذي فطرني وإليه ترجعون أأتخذ من دونه آلهة إن يردني الرحمن بضر لا تغني عني شفاعتهم شيئا ولا ينقذون إني إذا لفي ضلال مبين إني آمنت بربكم فاسمعون قيل ادخل الجنة قال يا ليت قومي يعلمون بما غفر لي ربي وجعلني من المكرمين وما أنزلنا على قومه من بعده من جند من السماء وما كنا منزلين إن كانت إلا صيحة واحدة فإذا هم خامدون يا حسرة على العباد ما يأتيهم من رسول إلا كانوا به يستهزئون ألم يروا كم أهلكنا قبلهم من القرون أنهم إليهم لا يرجعون وإن كل لما جميع لينظرون وآية لهم الأرض الميتة أحييناها وأخرجنا منها حبا فمنه يأكلون وجعلنا فيها جنات من نخيل وأعناب وفجرنا فيها من العيون ليأكلوا من ثمره وما عملته أيديهم أفلا يشكرون سبحان الذي خلق الأزواج كلها مما تنبت الأرض سبحان الذي خلق الأزواج كلها مما تنبت الأرض ومن أنفسهم ومما لا يعلمون وآية لهم ليل نسلخ منه النهار فإذا هم مظلمون والشمس تجري لمستقر لها ذلك تقدير العزيز العليم والقمر قدرناه منازل حتى عدا كالعرجون القديم لا الشمس ينبغي لها أن تدرك القمر ولا الليل سابق النهار وكل في فلك يسبحون وآية لهم أنا حملنا ذريتهم في الفلك المشحون وخلقنا لهم من مثله ما يركبون وإن نشأ نغرقهم فلا صريخ لهم ولا هم ينقذون إلا رحمة منا ومتاعا إلى حين وإذا قيل لهم اتقوا ما بين أيديكم وما خلفكم لعلكم ترحمون وما تأتيهم من آية من آيات ربهم إلا كانوا عنها معرضين وإذا قيل لهم أنفقوا مما رزقكم الله قال الذين كفروا للذين آمنوا أنطعم من لو يشاء الله أطعمه إن أنتم إلا في ضلال مبين ويقولون متى هذا الوعد إن كنتم صادقين ما ينظرون إلا صيحة واحدة تأخذهم وهم يخصمون فلا يستطيعون توصية ولا إلى أهلهم يرجعون ونفخ في الصور فإذا هم من الأجداث إلى ربهم ينسلون قالوا يا ويلنا من بعثنا من مرقدنا هذا ما وعد الرحمن وصدق المرسلون إن كانت إلا صيحة واحدة فإذا هم جميع لدينا محضرون فاليوم لا تظلم نفس شيئا ولا تجزون إلا ما كنتم تعملون إن أصحاب الجنة اليوم في شغل فاكهون هم وأزواجهم في ظلال على الأرائك متكئون لهم فيها فاكهة ولهم ما يدعون سلام قولا من رب رحيم وامتازوا اليوم أيها المجرمون ألم أعهد إليكم يا بني آدم أن لا تعبدوا الشيطان إنه لكم عدو مبين وأن اعبدوني هذا صراط مستقيم. ولقد أضل منكم جبلا كثيرا أفلم تكونوا تعقلون. هذه جهنم التي كنتم توعدون اصلوها اليوم بما كنتم تكفرون. اليوم نختم على أفواههم وتكلمنا أيديهم وتشهد أرجلهم بما كانوا يكسبون. ولو نشاء لطمسنا على أعينهم فاستبقوا الصراط فأنى يبصرون. ولو نشاء لمسخناهم على مكانتهم فما استطاعوا مضيا ولا يرجعون. ومن نعمره ننكسه في الخلق أفلا يعقلون. وما علمناه الشعر وما ينبغي له إن هو إلا ذكر وقرآن مبين لينذر من كان حيا ويحق القول على الكافرين. أولم يروا أنا خلقنا لهم مما عملت أيدينا أنعاما فهم لها مالكون وذللناها لهم فمنها ركوبهم ومنها يأكلون ولهم فيها منافع ومشارب أفلا يشكرون. واتخذوا من دون الله آلهة لعلهم ينصرون. لا يستطيعون نصرهم وهم لهم جند محضرون. فلا يحزنك قولهم إنا نعلم ما يسرون وما يعلنون. أولم ير الإنسان أنا خلقناه من نطفة فإذا هو خصيم مبين وضرب لنا مثلا ونسي خلقه قال من يحيي العظام وهي رميم قل يحييها الذي أنشأها أول مرة وهو بكل خلق عليم. الذي جعل لكم من الشجر الأخضر نارا فإذا أنتم منه توقدون. أوليس الذي خلق السماوات والأرض بقادر على أن يخلق مثلهم بلى وهو الخلاق العليم. إنما أمره إذا أراد شيئا أن يقول له كن فيكون. فسبحان الذي بيده ملكوت كل شيء وإليه ترجعون. صدق الله العلي العظيم. Just say Surah Yasin has been recited for the Salih Sawab of Marhum Haidar Ali Muhammad Hussain Ganji and Marhum Muhammad Hassan Sherali Gerard. For them and all Marhumin, please recite Surah Fatiha.
أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. أما يتساءلون عن النبأ العظيم الذي هم فيه مختلفون كلا سيعلمون ثم كلا سيعلمون ألم نجعل الأرض مهادا والجبال أوتادا وخلقناكم أزواجا وجعلنا نومكم سباتا وجعلنا الليل لباسا وجعلنا النهار معاشا وبنينا فوقكم سبعا شدادا وجعلنا سراجا وحاجا وأنزلنا من المعصرات ماء ثجاجا لنخرج به هبا ونباتا وجنات ألفافا إن يوم الفصل كان ميقاتا يوم ينفخ في الصور فتأتون أفواجا وفتحت السماء فكانت أبوابا وسيرت الجبال فكانت سرابا إن جهنم كانت مرصادا للطاغين مآبا لابثين فيها أحقابا لا يذوقون فيها بردا ولا شرابا إلا حميما وغساقا جزاء وفاقا إنهم كانوا لا يرجون حسابا وكذبوا بآياتنا كذابا وكل شيء أحصيناه كتابا فذوقوا فلن نزيدكم إلا عذابا إن للمتقين مفازا حدائق وعنابا وكواعب أترابا وكأسا دهاقا لا يسمعون فيها لغوا ولا كذابا جزاء من ربك عطاء حسابا رب السماوات والأرض وما بينهما الرحمن لا يملكون منه خطابا يوم يقوم الروح والملائكة صفا لا يتكلمون إلا من أذن له الرحمن وقال صوابا ذلك اليوم الحق فمن شاء اتخذ إلى ربه مآبا إنا أنذرناكم عذابا قريبا يوم ينظر المرء ما قدمت يداه ويقول الكافر يا ليتني كنت ترابا صدق الله العلي العظيم.
اللهم صل على محمد وعلى محمد.
صلاة على محمد وآل محمد.
اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد.
सदमे उठा रही हूँ मैं बाबा तुम्हारे बाद सदमे उठा रही हूँ मैं बाबा तुम्हारे बाद दरबार जा रही हूँ मैं दरबार जा रही हूँ मैं बाबा तुम्हारे बाद सदमे उठा रही हूँ मैं बाबा तुम्हारे बाद बाबा ये फातिमा पे मुसीबत का वक्त है ये मरहला कठिन है कयामत का वक्त है खुतबा सुना रही हूँ मैं اٹھا رہی ہوں میں بابا تمہارے بعد کوئی مجھے بتائے کہ کیا تھا میرا قصور صدمہ یہ ہے کہ شہر کی آبادیوں سے دور آنسو بہا رہی ہوں میں آنسو بہا رہی ہوں میں بابا تمہارے بعد صدمے اٹھا رہی ہوں میں بابا تمہارے بعد بابا تمہارے بعد یہ مجھ پر ستم ہوا محسن میرا شہید ہوا مصیبت یہ غم اٹھا رہی ہوں میں یہ غم اٹھا رہی ہوں میں بابا تمہارے بعد صدمے اٹھا رہی ہوں میں بابا تمہارے بعد بابا غریب بیٹی کی غربت کو دیکھ لو امت نے حق نہیں دیا بنت رسول کو یہ اجر پا رہی ہوں میں یہ اجر پا رہی ہوں میں بابا تمہارے بعد صدمے اٹھا رہی ہوں میں بابا تمہارے بعد دربار جا رہی ہوں میں دربار جا رہی ہوں میں بابا تمہارے بعد صدمے اٹھا رہی ہوں میں بابا تمہارے بعد صدمے اٹھا رہی ہوں میں بابا تمہارے بعد صلوات محمد وعلی محمد
اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد.
إلى أرواح المؤمنين والمؤمنات الفاتحة.
Respected scholars, my elders, brothers and sisters of Islam, Assalamu alaikum. Dear Mu'mineen, on behalf of the Jamaat, I extend our condolences to the Imam of our time and to all the Mu'mineen on the occasion of the Shahadat of our 7th Imam, Imam Musa al-Kadhim alayhi salam. On this night, we also remember and commemorate the Shahadat of the great and noble personality of Abu Talib alayhi salam. The program for this evening is for the Asal Istawal, Marhum Haidari Muhammad Hussain Ganji, the nephew of Roshan Ganji, who passed away on Thursday, and Marhum Muhammad Hassan Sharali Jaraj, the father of Sister Sadiqa Damji, who passed away yesterday. Can I please request all mu'mineen to recite the Surah Fatiha for these two marhumeen and all mu'mineen. Al-Fatiha. After a long break due to the COVID pandemic, we are delighted to announce that the Salat al-Jumu'ah will be resuming here at the Al-Makki Center from this coming Friday, 4th of March, at Al-Waqt time. Mu'mineen are requested to wear masks and maintain social distancing in the center and will also be asked to sign in on arrival. We are honored to be hosting Shaykh Mirza Abbas, who will be delivering the Majlis for this evening. Shaykh is now very known to us, all here at Wessex. He has served as a resident Talib in both Birmingham and Nottingham. He is the program leader for the B.A. Holzer Foundation course at the Islamic College and also works as the manager for the Holzer of England. Can I please ask you all to welcome him with the recitation of 3 rounds salawat.
بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم الحمد لله أوله بلا أول كان قبله وآخره بلا آخر يكون بعده الذي قصرت عن رؤيته أبصار الناظرين وعجزت عن نعته أوهام الواصفين ثم الصلاة والسلام على سيدنا ونبينا حبيبنا وطبيب نفوسنا أشرف الأنبياء والمرسلين أبو القاسم المصطفى محمد
اللهم صل على محمد
وعلى الطيبين الطاهرين المعصومين المظلومين ولعنة الدائم على أعدائهم أجمعين من الآن إلى قيام يوم الدين. أما بعد الله أجورنا وأجوركم والسلام عليكم جميعا ورحمة الله وبركاته. قال الله الحكيم في محكم كتابه المجيد بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم الله ولي الذين آمنوا يخرجهم من الظلمات إلى النور والذين كفروا أولياءهم الطاغوت يخرجونهم من النور إلى الظلمات أولئك أصحاب النار هم فيها خالدون. صدق الله العظيم. صلى الله عليه وسلم. We extend our condolences to the Imam of our time from this very center which is named after him. These days, these nights, this center acts like lighthouses, especially you guys living at the port. You may be fully aware of the function of these lighthouses. Particularly the time that we live in, which is full of agony, full of hate, full of spurious arguments by scholars, sometimes even wearing the libas and the covering of Islamic dresses, so on and so forth, on the basis of the very Quran and Hadith being used. So these nights, these days of which we commemorate for the Imams, which we celebrate for the Ahl Bayt alayhim salam, are indeed like lighthouses, which will guide us towards the shore, which will guide us towards this light. As the Imams they themselves say that kalam nur, their kalam, their speech, their words is light. So alhamdulillah, we have an opportunity to share the kalam of Ahl Bayt alayhim salam, which acts as light, which acts as guidance for us. And then at the same time, we have to transfer this to our young ones. And I'm certain that in terms of them taking the responsibility and carrying this light, will be far more successful, inshallah, in doing so. Because the transfer of this light, the transfer of this message comes with sincerity, with love and kindness. And the amount of problems and difficulties which you all are facing in order to provide Islamic education, in order to provide Islamic ethos, are really upheld, are really appreciated by Ahlul Bayt alayhimus salam. Yes, there may be only few, but that few really did and do wonders, as we know from the history, as we know from the companions of Imam Musa al-Kadhim. So we pray and we hope, inshallah, that this light be transferred, that they take the responsibility and pass it further to the future generation, inshallah. One thing before I start, obviously, that everyone's have in their mind is the invasion of Russia to Ukraine. War is condemned in Islam because loss of life and injustice is something that is not really appreciated or encouraged at all, with whatever pretext that there may be. But war is something that is not really encouraged, that is not really appreciated. And that's why we see in Islam as well, all of the battles which Prophet fought were imposed on the Prophet. The Prophet never initiated a war. Right? It was imposed on the Prophet. And it's very unfortunate that even after we call ourselves as the most civilized, most advanced, compared to previous civilizations or previous communities or men or population that lived, we said that we are the progress one. We are the one who landed on the moon. We are the one who are advanced. But when we look at, as their act is nothing different. It's the same sort of haywan. It's the same animal that is out for greed. That is ready to kill others. It's the same thing. We don't see any difference in that. So a condemnation is required within us, a condemnation is required as a community, a condemnation is required at our workplace or wherever that we may be, inshallah. And we pray to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala that there be stability and peace, and that there be less loss of life, innocent life, inshallah. And we pray to Allah that, the reappearance of our 12th Imam will establish justice, will establish utopia on earth, inshallah. Salat ala Muhammad wa ala Muhammad. Tonight we are gathered here for the commemoration of the martyrdom of our 7th Imam. 7th Imam, he was martyred at the age of 55. He was in prison for about 20 years, in the worst prison that one can ever imagine. The type of imprisonment that he had gone through. He became an imam at a very crucial time because there was a transformation of power from the Umayyads to the Abbasites. The Umayyad Khulafa, they persecuted the imams, the Ahlul Bayt alayhimus salam, to very extreme extent, as we know, the martyrdom of Imam Hussein, and after that Imam Zainul Abidin, who went through so much, and the suffering of Imam Zainul Abidin. There's a lot of comparison that we find in terms of the material being done in regards to the life of the 4th Imam and in regards to the life of the 7th Imam, because both of them went through a lot of pressure. And the sajdas of Imam Sajjad alayhi salam and the ibadat of Imam Kazim alayhi salam is always compared. That he was in prison for 20 years and he was doing ibadat, and he was doing long sajdas, he was doing du'as, so on and so forth. And same applies for Imam Sajjad alayhi salam when it comes to du'as of Imam Sajjad alayhi salam and the sajdas of Imam Sajjad alayhi salam and the imprisonment of Imam Sajjad alayhi salam. So he became an imam at a very crucial time where there was transformation of power. And usually we do find that when a new leadership come in power, would like to do everything and anything in order to stay in power. Because the Abbasites, they came to power under the pretext of the zulm that had been taken place on Ahl Bayt al-Muslim. And there were many uprisings being taken place within the Islamic Empire that we find, for example, they were known as the Alawites, the Alawi, the Shias, who were revolting against the Umayyad Khalifa, and then these people mobilized this and started making pact with these different rebel groups, and finally they came to power. And when they came to power as well, we find that they also were hungry for power, and they also started persecuting imams, whether that be Imam Baqir alayhi salam, Imam Sadiq alayhi salam, which they got a bit of a time to really propagate about the true message of Islam. And then when it comes to Imam Kazim alayhi salam, as the height of propagation of the Islamic sciences during the Imam Kazim, sixth Imam Sadiq alayhi salam have reached to the apex, have reached to its peak. And then obviously after Imam Kazim, after Imam Sadiq alayhi salam, it's Imam Kazim alayhi salam. Right? And sixth Imam was also Shaheed. And then now when you have this sort of atmosphere where there are intellectuals, where there are students of Imam Sadiq alayhi salam being present there, and the system of Wokala, the network of representatives all across, then the seventh Imam comes to power. Then obviously you will find that there is a danger for the regime, for the new leadership. So then Imam Kazim alayhi salam, that's why, was in prison for 20 years. We don't find any Imam being in prison for 20 years. And not even just a regular prisons. The prisons were the worst of prisons, and many of you have visited Iraq and have seen that you cannot even stand in these prisons properly. One of the prisons was known as they say, Chalisia, which means that a dark well prison. It was like a well. Right? So this persecution on Imam's life was continuous. And one of the reasons, I'm going to go to the real topic that we're going to discuss tonight in a bit from a theological point of view from Hazrat Abu Talib, and connecting that to the Imamat of Imam Kazim and Imamat in general. I'm just pointing out to some of the historical facts that was there, which is very important for us to know, because these are the days we remember the Imams. So therefore, we find that Imam Kazim alayhi salam was known as Babul Hawaij. Why is titled Babul Hawaij? They say that there are two reasons. One is that Imam's house have two doors. One was the door at the front, the other door was at the back. And the door at the back was the door of Hajat. Perhaps maybe people don't want to come to the front door because they don't want to be recognized. And the Imams also, they don't want them to be recognized and make them feel embarrassed, right? And we have known time and time again how our Imams used to help the poor by not being recognized, by wearing things like on their head, covering their face, so on and so forth. Only when they would find out when they are giving ghusl to the Imam that how much of back has been strained because of heavy weight that they used to carry. The fourth Imam used to accompany Hujjaj without telling people he is Haji. He would cook for them. He would clean the shoes for them. And then somebody will recognize him and say, oh, this is the Rasulullah. Then everybody will jump. And what are you doing? Why? Then he will say that, why did you inform others? I wanted to serve. Serving. Right? One of the principles that we find even in other faiths and people are attracted towards. Like for example, in Buddhism, we find, one of the folds, one of those 8 folds is to serve without any expectation from people. True effort, as they say, right effort. One of the, folds of the 8 folds of Buddha is right effort.
providing that true effort without any expectation. That's how the Imam served. Right? So here Imam Kazim alayhi salam the same way. He had a door in the back of his house, a door in the front, and back door was full of people coming there and attending and asking for hajat. And Imam would fulfill them. That's why his title was known as Babul Hawaj. Although all Imams are Babul Hawaj, but this title, was, protruded out, was given this title. Now, one more thing. Names of the Imams, titles of the Imams, is very similar to that tradition that we find among the traditional societies and traditional tribes, such as Native Americans. Native Americans will never name their child unless they find out what sort of qualities and attributes this child have. And also these qualities and title giving and these names used to change in the course of time. Like for example, he will be known as a bear. After a while, he will be known as a wounded bear, so that everybody will know that this bear is hurt and he should be treated in a nice way. That's the sunnah of the Native Americans, who were closer to the nature, which means that they were closer to God in terms of their teachings. Or for example, somebody is named as a dancing wind. Dancing wind is a tornado. When he comes, makes too much noise and gives trouble. So he's been named after that, then he will reflect in his nafs, in his own. They named me dancing wind and I need to change my quality, attributes. I need to be kind, I need to be nice. And then he will change his qualities and attributes. So basically the name giving and the title giving in the ancient times and in ancient religions were much more sophisticated, was much more based on the nafs al-insan, was much more based on nature, so that we should appreciate the nature, so that we should be closer to the nature, right? But unfortunately now in the postmodern period we say strange names and given, and whatnot. When it comes to the Arabs and the Arab tribes as well, we see the similarities, because those were those who are the nomads. They are closer to the nature, and in terms of their inspiration, they have divine inspiration, so on and so forth. We find the same thing in regards to Masumeen alayhi salam. Like for example, Siddiqa Kubra, which is the title Siddiqa, Zahra, Mutahara, Hawra al-Insiya. It's not in one go. That okay, from today my daughter is known as Siddiqa, my daughter is known as Marsia, my daughter is known as Mutahara. So it's not in one go that they achieve that title. It is because of their character. Siddiqa is like because she earned that. Haydar, because he earned it, right? Karram, because he earned it. Siddiqul Akbar, because he earned it. Not that as soon as he's born he's Siddiqul Akbar, no. So the same way, Kazim is one of the title of the Imam. Babul Hawaj is one of the title of the Imam, because during his life, these things are reflected by him. Kazim means that someone who withholds the anger, withholds, one's temper is Kazim. وَكَاظِمِينَ الْغَيْظَ وَالْعَافِينَ عَنِ النَّاسِ, as the ayah of the Quran says. That's somebody who withholds. And Imam Kazim withholded. He was so much patient. He endured so much patience. He was sabr. He did so much sabr. 20 years in prison, 18 years in prison. In that type of prison, but he did sabr. He was patient. The other reason why they say that he's named as Babul Hawaj is also because that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala gave him a choice whether that the Shias, because of their actions, go through a turmoil, that there be azab upon them. But Imam Kazim alayhi salam said, no, I want my Shias to be protected, and rather I will take this azab on me. So he accepted that azab for himself. And because of this, that he has accepted that this pain and difficulties he be tested rather than others, for protecting others. He faced that. And that is usually the case if you look at it in the conventional sense as well. The leader is the one who faces the most of trials and tribulation and test, and he's right at the front. Prophet used to be at the front of, everything. So the same way in terms of the Manawiya, it's been mentioned that there was azab that was coming upon the Shias, where Imam Kazim alayhi salam accepted that on him. And he suffered so much for our. Same applies in other cases, in the case of other Imams as well, Imam Hussain alayhi salam, if you look at it. Right. So this aspect is also very theological as well, which we don't have time to discuss. The aspect of salvation, for example, which we see in Christianity, where Christ suffers so much for the sake of protection of their, of their followers, for example, which can be discussed later on. But the topic for tonight, after discussing a bit of history and also the titles of the Imam, is I would like to reflect a bit upon wilayat. If you help me with the salawat ala Muhammad wa ala Muhammad. Particularly because we are in the month of Rajab, and the Rajab is culminating now, 5 days, few days left. At least we should fast if we haven't done any other thing. And that's the best thing that one could really do. And if you cannot fast, perhaps we can give kafara of the fast, although it's not wajib to give kafara, the fidya of the fast. We give in month of Ramadan. Maybe you can give in this month as well. Or there is a zikr to be recited 100 times in the month of Rajab, that if somebody who cannot fast, they can recite the zikr. Somehow or the other, we have to be vigilant about this month of Rajab, so that we should not let go, because the month have a rahmatul wasi'ah, as we recite in the du'as. Not to discuss too much about the month of Rajab, but because this month is also known as the month of wilayat. The month of wilayat. There are du'as in this month which reflect the position and the station, the maqam, of who a true wali is. As tonight is the martyrdom of Imam Kazim alayhi salam. He was a true wali. The wilayat of Ahlul Bayt alayhi salam, the imamat of Ahlul Bayt alayhi salam. One way we can talk about imamat, for example, Quran says, Al-yawma akmaltu lakum dinakum, and this and that and the other, the wilayat of Amirul Mu'mineen, for example. Innama waliyukumullah, the one who gives wali of Allah is the one who gives zakat and ruku, so on and so forth. And in Ghadir, Prophet said this, and Ali, Ana Madinatu Ali Baba, you are the place of Harun to Musa. And this way, dogmatic way, one can really talk about imamat of Imam Ali alayhi salam. However, what is much of a value and perhaps we can appreciate in our time is if we can understand wilayat and imamat if we understand imamat from the point of view of wilayat. Wilayat, what does it mean? Wilayat comes from the root word walaya. Walaya actually really means closeness. You are sitting next to the wall, you are wali to the wall because you are close to the wall. And wall is also close to you. Right? This is called wilayat in a way. Both of them are close to each other. This is known as wilayat. They are close to each other. Now, when I said this, I'm pretty sure that you are thinking that, well, the wall is not aware that you are close, but you are aware you are close to the wall. However, still it is known as wilayat. Therefore, now the other thing we can talk about wilayat is that, I am in Nottingham or I am in London, but at the same time, I'm very close, inshallah, to Brother Shafiq. He's my wali, and, I am his wali. As the Quran also says, awliya ba'zum ba'z, they are wali. The mu'mineen and mu'minuna, awliya ba'zum ba'z, they are wali of each other. They are close to each other. They are friends to each other. These are the different translation of, they are guardian of each other. These are the different translation of wali, being translated as, which we'll get there very briefly and very quickly. Because I want to first point out to the conception of wilayat, the definition of wilayat, and then we'll look at the Quran and who can be a true wali, and is it possible that, human beings and insan can be wali. Now, so we may be far, but at the same time we can be close. But still it's known as wilayat. The other type is, for example, it could be on the horizontal plane in the sense that we are friends of each other, but it could be on the vertical plane. For example, there's a wilayat of father or the wilayat of the children. Wilayat of father or the wilayat of children. He is wali of the children. He is the caretaker. He is the guardian. For example, in terms of the fiqh, people tend to ask that, the girl is because, she has a choice. There's no force. No, father cannot force her to marry. But there's a permission of the father because he's the wali is required. Because he's the wali. And he should, have the consent and the permission. Because it's actually a transformation of wilayat. When the wilayat is being transferred from the father to the husband, that requires a bit of importance and insight, reflection. Rasulullah transferred his wilayat to Ali. So when he transferred that wilayat, he was not like anybody, no, he focused, he looked at it, what is better. So this is like a transformation of wilayat from father to the husband. The husband becomes the wali. You see what I mean? The caretaker, the guardian. So that is the reason, spiritual reason why the permission of the father is required, the consent of the father is required. So there is a wilayat which is, for example, from top to bottom, from side to side. And when there is side to side, it is also one-sided and two-sided. So there are different aqsam, there are different types of closeness or nearness or friendship or wilayat, guardianship. There are different types of it. Then there's another type of wilayat which is wilayat of you over your own perceptions. You're looking, you're hearing, you're smelling. You have wilayat over them. Have wilayat over what I'm looking and what I'm not looking. I'm the wali of my sight. I can close my eyes, I can look. I can close my ears, I'm the wali of hearing. Right? There's also closeness. Now, some of the wilayats are transferable, like husband. Marriage, as we mentioned, father to husband. The wilayat transferable. Some of the wilayat are transferable. I own this, I'm the wali of it, I sell it to you. Wilayat is transferred. You are the owner of it. Right? This is transferable. Because now, in terms of the guardianship, I'm the owner, I'm the milk. It's at the same time, it has that meaning, and at the same time, it's close to me as well. I'm wali. I'm close to it. Right? You go far away from me. No longer I'm the wali of it because it has both meaning here. So it has different types and forms. Wilayat have different types and forms of meaning. Right? Some of the wilayat is not transferable. Like for example, I am seeing, you're not wali of my side. Right? I'm in charge of it. I'm the wali of it. It cannot be transferred at all. It's my thoughts. Like for example, when I say a school bus, you have a school bus in your mind, I have a school bus in my mind. I have wilayat over my school bus, you have wilayat over your school bus. Right? So this school bus which I have in my mind, I cannot give it to you. I cannot transfer it to you. I cannot do anything about it. I'm the wali of it, no matter what. This also wilayat though. Right? That closeness is there. And at the same time, not just the closeness, it is in complete control of me. Right? It is in complete control of me. Because I'm imagining it. I have power of it. Now this school bus, I say that this school bus in my mind have wheels which are, huge, big wheels. Or which have small wheels, which have iron wheels. I can do whatever I want. Because I am wali of it. Right? Everything is in my hand. Whatever I do, it's happening. Eyesight, imagination, hearing, whatever. Right? Thoughts, so on and so forth. But it's at the same time, it is close, very close. And at the same time, it is submissive. It has surrendered to my will. These thoughts that I have. So now, can anybody deny that wilayat doesn't exist? It's impossible to deny wilayat. We just proved it. Wilayat exists. Wilayat exists. Can anybody deny wilayat? No. It's absurd to deny wilayat doesn't exist. It's like the same way I'm existing, wilayat also exists. You cannot deny wilayat. Now, when wilayat exists, when wilayat is there, now we go to talking about the Quran. Let's see how Quran talks about wilayat. Who is wali? Allahu wali. Wali is the name of Allah. Right? Now, wali is the name of Allah, and Allah is the wali. Allah wali ladina amanu. Allah is the wali of, Just we recited al-Kursi. Allah is a wali. The name of Allah is wali. Allah is wali. Now Allah is wali. Now what type of wilayat does Allah have? We say that, okay, closeness, yes, closer than jugular vein. Now, that type that you are near the wall is near you, that type of wilayat, yes, that is possible as well, because there are many people, Ya man arju li kulli khair, man yas'aluhu man lam ya'rif, ta'annuna minhu wa rahma. People doesn't recognize Allah, but Allah still gives them. Allah is close to them. Allah is giving them. The same way you are near the wall, you don't recognize, the wall doesn't recognize it is near you, but you recognize you are near the wall. So there could be people, human beings, they don't know that Allah exists, but Allah is close to them as well. Allah is close to everyone. Right? And that's why, just very briefly, Imam Ali says that Quran, Allah with Quran. O Muslims, be wary of Quran, so that other people doesn't act on the Quran. You should act on the Quran. Right? And when we look at other people, they are practicing Quran, but they don't know Quran. Right? So that in terms of recognition, they may not recognize it, but they are benefiting from what Allah has given them. So that type of wilayat is there, Allah wali. Then you have Allah, like for example, then you see the wilayat which the Quran also talks about, the wilayat of shaitan. Shaitan says, they are wali of each other. Shaitan is the wali of people. And in the eye of the Quran, the wilayat of shaitan also exists. Right? As the Quran says, for example, وَمِنْ يَتَّخِذْ الشَّيْطَانُ وَلِيًّا مِنْ دُونِ اللَّهِ فَقَدْ خَسِرَ خُسْرَانًا مُبِينًا. They take shaitan as their wali. Shaitan as their wali meaning close. Shaitan as their wali meaning commands. Whatever shaitan says, just do it. Right? And this is khusran mubin. This is an apparent loss that these people are. Right? So you have wilayat Allah being mentioned. Allah will wali. We don't have time, very briefly. Wilayat of shaitan is also being mentioned in the Quran. So wilayat exists, first we prove. In the Quran, wilayat of Allah, wilayat of shaitan. Then wilayat of mu'mineen each other, the example also we give, and there are ayahs of the Quran, al-mu'minuna wal-mu'minat, ba'azuhum awliya ba'as, ya'muruna bil-ma'ruf wa yanhawna 'anil munkar. Mu'mineen are awliya of each other, and they enjoin good, and they prohibit evil. I do something, you tell me that, oh, Maulana, this is wrong. Oh, okay, because you are my wali. You have that authority to do that. You are close to me. You are seeing me. Al-Mu'min, Miratul Mu'min. You are reflecting me. We are wali of each other. So wilayat of each other is also mentioned in the Quran. Wilayat of Allah is mentioned in the Quran. Wilayat of shaitan is mentioned in the Quran. Right? Wilayat of kafirin. Wilayat of Yahud wa Nasara is mentioned. Ya ayyuhalladhina amanu la tattakhidhu aduwwi wa aduwwakum awliya. Don't take enemies and your enemies as your wali. Don't take kuffar as your wali. As being close, as being guardian. So the kafirin, they shouldn't be taken as our wali, as our, somebody who are close to us, somebody who can command us, somebody, who can dictate us. لا يتخذ المؤمنون والكافرون أولياء من دون الله. Do not take, mu'minin should not take kafir as wali. So the wilayat of kuffar is there also in the Quran. The wilayat of Allah is there, wilayat of shaitan there, wilayat of mu'minin there, wilayat of kuffar there in the Quran. Right? Now the point is that one have to be very careful, vigilant. Whose wilayat shall we take? If wilayat exists, whose wilayat is the best wilayat? Now, conclusion, very briefly. There is a lot of discussion there, but we don't have much of a time. Now, as we said, wilayat exists, right? And this wilayat is actually that closeness. Yeah, I have to connect this to the du'as of Rajab, like I promised. Yeah, then we said that this wilayat exists, right? And this wilayat is actually that closeness. Who is the who is the docile of this wilayat? Mu'mineen, yes. Kuffar, yes. Shaitan, yes. Right? And that means that the creation, as in shaitan, as in kuffar, as in mu'mineen. Now, among all of this, who do you think could be near Allah? Shaitan? Mu'mineen? Okay, yes, we may say Mu'mineen. Kuffar? Because they don't even know Allah exists. How can we say that, they are closer to Allah? Allah is close to them. There is no doubt about it. In terms of Allah being close to the creation, no doubt about it. But them being closer to Allah is they have no imagination, or they don't understand, or they don't know anything about it. They are not. Shaitan, completely hasn't really listened to the command of Allah. It's like, for example, I'm saying in my mind, oh, the bus that I have, come quickly, stop. Don't make an accident in my mind. But the bus doesn't stop. It doesn't matter. Now, then there are certain individuals and people who are so close to Allah in the same fashion that our imagination and our thought is. They are closer in terms of them having that understanding that they are close. And at the same time, they are close in the sense that they are directly under the guardianship to fulfill that command of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. That's why when the azan happens, we should quickly stand for prayer. It's like Allah is a wali. He is commands and here I am, labbaik. As soon as that. So we also become closer to Allah. Allah also is closer to us. In the spiritual sense, yes, He is closer to me than the jugular vein. When I fulfill my namaz on time, salat on time, I am coming closer physically as well to Him and mentally as well to Him. Right? That's why, the closeness of us to Allah depends on my ma'rifah and on my understanding. Okay. Now here, you have these personalities, right? Yeah, this is the dua that I want to recite. There are these personalities, individuals, as wilayat exist because of their actions which we have seen in their life, because of what they have spoken about in regards to defining, in regards to attributing who Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is. We find there are certain individuals who are at the peak of their understanding and ma'rifah of Allah. Why? Because they are close. We are not talking about Imam, Shia Imam. We are talking about wilayat existing or not. If wilayat is existing, there are certain individuals who are very close. They are so close that they can tell who Allah is. Who says that? Quran says that. Subhanallah amma yusifun. Allah cannot be depicted. Illa ibadallahi mukhlasun. In Surah Saf. Only those people who are mukhlas, they can tell who Allah is. Why? Because they are very close to Allah. So look in the history of mankind. Point out to me, who are they? What individuals? What type of people? In terms of their amal, in terms of their practice. Then, for example, this dua which comes from, this month of Rajab, this dua which comes from Imam Zaman to one of the Nawab. Imam had 4 khas, Nawab khas, where he used to meet them. And he gave this dua to one of the Nawab to be recited in the month of Rajab. Look at this dua. Full of ma'rifah. Like as we said, the month of Rajab is the month of wilayat, which means that in the month of Rajab, our ma'rifat of Imams should increase. And we are commemorating for the Shahadat of the Imam. That's why we say that these days are like a guiding light. It guides us in regards to who Imams are. With so much of turmoil that, has been created by the material world, by the doubts and so on and so forth in regards to the position and maqam of Imam, who Imam is, have we really recognized? In this dua, it says, Allahumma inni as'aluka bil ma'ani jami'a ma yaduka bil gulat wa amri. Oh Allah, for the sake of those names which are taken by the gulat wa amri, those names which are taken by your authority. What names? Many a times, for example, my child, my son, doesn't know what another friend has because he's older. My son cannot speak properly, he's too young. So what he will tell is to his father, he will say, Father, Baba, I want like that. What's that name? What is it? Do you know? No, I don't know, but I really like it. I want that. Right? Like in the same way, we say in the qunut of Eid that Allahumma, akhriji min kulli su akhrajta minhu Muhammad wa akhriji min kulli khair adkhalta minhu Muhammad wa Allah, make me enter the khair that Muhammad entered. I don't know what that khair is. I'm too little to understand that khair. So that khair, and make me away from that evil thing which you made them away from it. I don't know what that is, but please make me away. So, in the same fashion, please dua, Allahumma inni as'aluka bi ma'ani jami' ma yaduka bihi wulatu amrik. Those, ma'ani, those meanings which they are reciting, I don't know what that is, because they know, right? Like for example, in Dua Samad that we recite, oh Allah, for the sake of that tajalli that took place, for the Musa on the mountain. What was that tajalli? I don't know what that was, but for the sake of that tajalli, it only happened once. Right? This is a smart way of seeking and asking. Who taught us? Masumin alayhi salam taught us. Then you say, Al-Ma'mun, Al-Ma'mun al-Asirrik. They are in charge. They are the trustees of your secret. Who are those people who are in authority? The awliya. They are the ones who are Al-Ma'mun, Al-Ma'mun al-Asirrik. They are the trustees of your secret. Nobody can really comprehend and imagine the beauty of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. We do not have that capacity to really understand that. We are not ready for it. Right? It takes gradual improvement and expansion of our heart to really download that, to really understand that. It becomes so beautiful. It becomes so loving. It's a different world completely, the feeling that a person gets. Right? That one of the secrets of Allah. It's hidden, and they are the one who hides that, those secret. Al-Ma'mun secret. Al-Mustafshiruna bi-amrik, those who rejoice in your command. With your command they rejoice. Imam Kazim alayhi salam, in such that Imam Rashid looks at the prison person in charge. He says, look at that. What do you see? He says, I see a cloth. He says, that's not a cloth. That's Imam Kazim in sajda. And that's what he does after Fajr. He is in sajda till Tulu time. Mustabshiruna, they are happy and they rejoice in, what you have basically ordered for them, what you have destined for them, right? As Buddha says that he hates me, he abused me, he robbed me, right? As long as this hatred is in my heart, I will not be able to appreciate the beauty of God, right? So the same way the Ahlul Bayt, they have taken away hate from their heart. They are the Umana al-Rahman. They don't have hate to anybody in their heart. There was Ayatollah Darbandi, I think he would come to the haram of Imam Hussain alayhi salam, and he would shout loudly, oh Imam Hussain, don't do shafa'at of shimr. Don't do shafa'at of shimr. They asked him, will they do shafa'at of shimr? He said, well, he is the ultimate mercy, manifestation of the mercy of Allah. You never know, we can do shafa'at of shimr. That's how they are, right? They are mustabshiruna, they have no but love to they love the creation. Al-Mustafshiruna bi-amrik, al-Wasifuna li-qudratik, and the describers of your power. They are the one who describe what is the power of Allah, because they are close to you, right? Al-Mu'linuna li-'azamatik, the proclaimers of your supremacy. As'aluka bima nataka fihim min mashiyatik, I implore you by your will that has manifested itself through them. The will of Allah is manifested through Imam, through the waliullah. What Allah wants is manifested through. It's not, if Imam says halal, is it not halal? If Imam says haram, it is not haram. It is because it's will. It becomes hujjat. What the Imam is saying, it becomes hujjat. So the will of Allah is manifested through an Imam. That is the maqam of an Imam. And then فَجَعَلْتَهُمْ مَعَادٍ لِكَلِمَاتِكَ, and they are they are known, thus you have made them the essence of your word. The essence of your word is that waliullah, that Imam. In the Ziyarat of Imam al-Kadhim alayhi salam, I also recite, blessings and peace be upon the one who is the essence of Risalat, Imam al-Kadhim alayhi salam. If you look at the Ziyarat of Imam al-Kadhim, the essence of the kalamat of Allah is the Ahlul Bayt, is Imam al-Masum. And then so arkanan li tawheedik. They are the rukn of Tawheed. In Ziyarat al-Jami' Kabira, which comes from the Imam al-Hadi alayhi salam, which is considered to be authentic Ziyarat. Some people make create doubt in regards to the authenticity of Ziyarat al-Jami' Kabira by saying that, well, there's a problem in the chain. However, the authenticity is not just by the chain. The authenticity is by the value that sits within that hadith, within that ziyarat that is there. You know, the ma'ani that is in there. Yes, the ma'ani and the meaning and the style makes up for some of the little, little sort of what you call non-authentic thing that could be present in there. The meaning of it makes it, makes it up for that. So Ziyarat al-Jami' Kabira is something that has been dedicated from Imam al-Hadi alayhi salam to be recited for Imam Amirul Mu'mineen. And this can be recited for all Masumeen alayhi salam, not just Imam Ali alayhi salam. In which we recite that وَأَرْكَانًا لِتَوْحِيدِكَ. The Imam are the Masumeen, the Imam is the rukn of Tawheed. These awliya, al-Mamunun ala sirrik, al-Faja'altahum ma'adina kalimatik wa-arkanan li-tawheedik. They are the rukn of Tawheed. Because of them, they are the pillars of that Tawheed. To understand Tawheed, and we are proud that the way we understand Tawheed, any bashar have ever understood Tawheed. That's the beauty. The way we have understand Tawheed in terms of his af'al, in terms of his zat, in terms of his sifat, and the way we reflect Tawheed, the way we reflect Tawheed in our actions, none of the other religions or faith or creed have ever reflected it, because they have really reached to that maqam and delivered that to us, and we practice that. وآياتك ومقاماتك التي لا تعتيل لها في كل مقام. Your signs, they are the arkan of your Tawheed. They are the of your signs and stations which are never inoperative in any place. La ta'tila, there is no ta'til of the manifestation of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Right? Everything that manifests, that comes into this world, that goes back to this world, it goes through Imam. Whatever comes here and whatever goes back. And Allah is a being that is always sending and taking away. Inna lillahi wa inna ilayhi raji'un. This is the nature and the essence of God, that is always creating and is always resurrecting and destroying, the same way as we breathe. The Sufi masters, they say that when you exhale, it is creation. When you inhale, it is resurrection. It goes back. Inna lillahi wa inna ilayhi raji'un. So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, the essence of Allah is always creating and destroying, creating and destroying. That's why there's Adam before this Adam, Adam before this Adam, Adam. After this Adam, maybe Adam too. So that's how the wujud and the existence of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is. And we were Imams and we were Rasul in every Adam. Right? Why? Because they have reached, they have acquired that maqam. Right? وَأَرْكَانًا لِتَوْحِيدِكَ وَآيَاتِكَ. Right? And then يَعْرِفُوكَ بِهَا مَنْ عَرَفَكَ. Through them you are known to those who know you. It is through the Imam. Right? It is through the Imam that we know. Through them. Through the Ahlul Bayt alayhi salam. لَا فَرْقَ بَيْنَكَ وَبَيْنَهَا إِلَّا أَنَّهُمْ عِبَادُكَ وَخَلْقُكَ. There is no difference between him and them. إِلَّا عِبَادُكَ وَخَلْقُكَ. That they are servants of Allah. That they are creation of Allah. فَتْقُهَا وَرَتْقُهَا بِيَدِكَ. Their unstitching and mending is in your hand. بَدْعُهَا مِنْكَ. Their emanate from you and return to you. This is also, haqq comes from you, haqq goes back to you. In Ziyarat al-Jami' Kabira, this dua, Imam Zaman, which is given to his Naib Khas, is about talking about the maqam of Imam. Have we ever understood that there in this maqam? That is marifah. And those who understood, they become Abu Talib. Right? They are true Abu Talib. That Abu Talib understood the maqam of Rasulullah. Abu Talib understood the maqam of Ahlul Bayt alayhi salam. He had that marifat. That's why he gave enormous support for this mission to be completed. The one who recites the nikah of Rasulullah, how can one even doubt in terms of his belief, in terms of, like I said, we can prove imamat through a dogmatic way, this, but we can prove imamat from a philosophical and logical way. Imam is the one who is Arkan al-Tawheed, and show me. So if somebody believes in Imam through this, is he not a believer of Imam? Abu Talib alayhi salam believed. Does he really have to, pronounce in that way which they expect to pronounce? Yes, pronounce it. He is supporting the mission of the Prophet. He is doing everything. He has trained. He is protecting his life by sacrificing his own children. Right? He's been given the opportunity. The Prophet himself chose Abu Talib alayhi salam. Right? After the demise of Hazrat Abdul Muttalib. All of these signs are pointing out to. Why are you waiting for? What are you waiting for? Abu Talib understood that wilayah. The wilayah of Rasulullah, the wilayah of Islam, the wilayah of Allah. Allahu al-Wali. Allah is the Wali. So, in the same fashion that we, for example, have wilayat in terms of our seeing, hearing, that close, and it's fully under the control of it. And that also provide us, for example, you have a thought and you write. That is you have wilayat over your thought and you have written the book. And what you have written the book, because of which I am guided, because of which I come closer to truth, what you're saying. So I elevate Islam in terms of that closeness. If we can imagine in that fashion that they are like that. And not to forget, all of this ma'rifat, all of this nearness to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, as they themselves, Imam have said, that there is no favoritism between us and Allah. We have earned this. We have reached this maqam by our, obedience, by submissiveness. And there is no favoritism between us and our Shias. They will come closer to us by their actions. It is the action. When we perform that action, we don't have to be with Imam Hussein. We are with Imam Hussein. We are with Imam Hussein if we perform that action. That is why, in Ziyarat Ashura, we ask for Allah, give me the maqam of the Shahadat of Imam Hussein. We've never been shaheed with the Shahadat of Imam Hussein. But if our actions, we become one with the Shahadat, although they are in the past. Right? So one very brief philosophical point here, when somebody practices, right? When somebody practices the command of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to the maximum, to the dot, he goes beyond time. That's why in the Quran, who is the first Muslim? It is an ayah in the Quran, Ana awwalul Muslim. Rasulullah said, I'm the first Muslim. Adam was the first Muslim, he was the first creation. But why Rasulullah said, I'm the first Muslim, although he came so much late? Because first awlawiyat, the firstness, is in the quality. In terms of the hierarchy. Right? So the same way, if a person practices now, he goes beyond time. Same as Rasulullah went beyond time. He met Ibrahim, he met, for Mi'raj. He was here, but he met everybody. He went beyond time. He went to, back to the future. He went back, and also the future he saw. Why? Because he has come out of this physical world. He has gone out of it. And over there's no first and second as such as we see here in this dunya. Right? That's why Allah is awwal wal akhir, zahir wa batin. So that is, they have practiced it. And we can see in the life of the Muslim, Imam al-Kadhim, how much he suffered. Right? How much he gave. They say that the reason of his imprisonment was also because the family members were jealous of him and used to go and report against him. They have kina, they have animosity. Apart from the political side of it, that was also there. The close ones who would do that. And then finally, the days of his days were numbered. They put him in prison, and this time, Harun Rashid, the father of Mamun, who killed Imam Mirza alayhi salam, Harun was the one who killed Imam Kadhim alayhi salam, tells to Barmaki, one of the governors, that what are you going to do with him? He says that I have found, because there were many prisons Imam were put into, different ways, just to give a bad name to the Imam, he was put with the bad people, right? And with the animals he was put in, but still they couldn't really do anything about it. Finally, they said there is a person, Shahab is Sindhi, or Sindhi ibn Shahab, was not even a Muslim. He said, I have somebody who can take care of him. I will give him to this person, Sindhi, and he will put him in a prison that will break his back. And make sure that you prepare a poison that we will give him, by which he will not be able to survive. As there was pressure from the people as well, there were Boers and there were Shias supporting him, Alawis, and that's why, Harun's son Ma'mun was forced to give the vice chairmanship to Imam Mirza alayhi salam, to Imam Mirza alayhi salam because of the pressure there. So he says that, okay, we will, call other people, scholars, mullahs, mu'mineen, other people, all dignified people, and we will make sure that the blame of you murdering him will not take place to Harun Rashid, Barmaki said. And then you just provide us with the poison. So there's the most expensive poison was given. And this was planted in the date. As they say, in a date it was planted and it was given to Imam Kazim. And in that prison, which was already too much for a human being to suffer and to go through that, this poison was given to Imam Kazim. And in that very chains that he was, his life was taken. After he died, the prison mates, they say that they brought a body and placed it on a table. And there were other people there as well, just before the body was taken outside from the prison. Because they wanted to show to the body of Imam, and they wanted to say that, see, there's nobody have, hurt him, nobody have beaten him. He died a natural death. So they wanted to show it to people. They wanted to have this news being given to people, so that Harun is not made. But they say that when the body of Imam Kazim alayhi salam was brought and it was placed on the table, the other people who were around in that room, they couldn't understand, what is this? It is so heavy. And then when they remove the cloth, they saw the very fragile body of Imam Kazim alayhi salam. And his body was also chained. And it was the weight of this chain that was on the body of Imam Kazim. The same way as they say that for Imam Zainul Abidin alayhi salam, that because of the chain that were placed in the necks of Imam Zainul Abidin, the bone of his neck was seen. The flesh was melted. The same way for Imam Kazim alayhi salam, and they say that his body was full of marks of the chains where he was put in prison with full of chains. And finally, when his body was brought out and it was placed in the bridge, Baghdad had a bridge, and they placed the body of Imam Kazim alayhi salam out there for 3 days. And people were coming and bringing flowers and throwing on the body of Imam Kazim alayhi salam. And they say that the whole town of Baghdad was full of fragrance of flowers, that one could smell the fragrance of flowers from far away. People who were coming and paying tribute to the body. And they were saying that Hada Imam Rafizi, this is the Imam of the Rafizis, who have died a natural death. Come and take a look. But at the same time, we know that the pain and difficulty that the Imam Kazim alayhi salam had. But here it was the body of Imam Kazim placed on the ground for 3 days with flowers. But his Jad, Abu Abdullah al-Husayn's body, when Abu Abdullah Husayn's body was severed and his body was on the ground, Umar Asad announces, who is there to gallop the horses over the body of Imam Hussain alayhi salam? Zainab ran out. And she said that, is there anyone who would claim the body of Hussein? Because the body of other Shohada were claimed by the different tribes and different family members. But the body of the grandson of grandson of the Prophet, the body of son of Zahra was remaining on the plain of Karbala. And here the Ibn Umar Sa'ad announces, gallop over the body of Hussein. Special horses were brought. The body of Hussein was on the ground, and the horses galloped over the body of Imam Hussein alayhi salam. Allah khawf az-zalimin sayalamu alladhina zalamu ayyuhum qalbin yanqalibun. Ma Hussein. Ya Hussein, 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 Ya Hussein.
زہرا کی بیٹیوں کی ردائیں اتر گئی، 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 سجاد کو ضعیف صدائیں کر گئی، زہرا کی بیٹیوں کی ردائیں اتر گئی، زہرا کی بیٹیوں کی ردائیں اتر گئی، لاشوں کو رسیوں میں جکر کر لیے پھرو، لاشوں کو رسیوں میں جکر کر لیے پھرو، سیدانیہ تو گھر سے نکلتے ہی مر گئی، زہرا کی بیٹیوں کی ردائیں اتر گئی، زہرا کی بیٹیوں کی ردائیں اتر گئی، جاتی تھی جو کبھی کبھی زہرا کی قبر پر، جاتی تھی جو کبھی کبھی زہرا کی قبر پر، جانے خدا ہجوم سے کیسے گزر گئی، زہرا کی بیٹیوں کی ردائیں اتر گئی، زہرا کی بیٹیوں کی ردائیں اتر گئی، ظلم و ستم کی تیز ہوائیں تھی جب چلی، ظلم و ستم کی تیز ہوائیں تھی جب چلی، سب گلشن بطول کی کلیاں بکھر گئی، زہرا کی بیٹیوں کی ردائیں اتر گئی، زہرا کی بیٹیوں کی ردائیں اتر گئی، زہرا کی بیٹیوں کی ردائیں اتر گئی، رم لائے پوچھتی تھی سکینہ سے قد میں، رم لائے پوچھتی تھی سکینہ سے قد میں، زخمی ہے کان والی ابھی بھی کدھر گئی، زہرا کی بیٹیوں کی ردائیں اتر گئی، زہرا کی بیٹیوں کی ردائیں اتر گئی، زہرا کی بیٹیوں کی ردائیں اتر گئی، محمد وآل محمد
اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد.
بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. السلام عليك يا سيدي يا مولاي يا رسول الله. السلام عليك يا سيدي يا نبي الله، يا محمد يا حبيب الله، وعلى زوجتك الوفية الغراء خديجة الكبرى أم المؤمنين والمؤمنات، على بدة المظلومة الصديقة الطاهرة فاطمة الزهراء سيدة نساء العالمين. السلام عليك يا رسول الله، وعلى أخيك ووليك ووسيك وخليفتك من بعدك علي الأمير بالمؤمنين، وابنيك الإمامين الحسن والحسين سيدي شباب أهل الجنة أجمعين، وعلى 9 المعصومين من ذرية الحسين علي السجاد ومحمد الباقر وجعفر الصادق وموسى الكاظم وعلي الرضا ومحمد الجواد وعلي الهادي والحسن العسكري والحجة القائم المهدي، عجل الله تعالى فرجك وسهل الله تعالى مخرجك وظهورك. السلام عليكم جميعا ورحمة الله وبركاته.
اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد.
اللهم كل وليك حجة الحسن صلواتك عليه وعلى آله في هذا الصلاة كل ساعة وليا وحافظا وقائدا وناصرا وخليلا وعينا حتى تسكنه أرضك طوعا وتمتعه فيها طويلا.
اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد.
I ask everyone to take their seats and follow the guide of the volunteers to leave the centre in a safe and socially distant manner. Thank you.